Hello, my friend. So in the previous lecture, we installed React. Now we can go ahead and go inside of the context API app directory by saying cd context API. And then let's say npm start to start the local dev service. So it should open up in a browser, and we should be able to see that in a second. So let's open up our project in Code Editor and organize the file structure. All right, here we go. These are the React boilerplates. So let's edit this boilerplate just a little bit to begin our React project. First, I go into the source folder, and I'm going to get rid of a few files. I'll get rid of the app.css file. So I'm going to get rid of the test file. We won't be using that at all. And also the logo, we don't need that. Okay, so I'm going to open up the app.js file. And we don't need this app.css or logo imports anymore in the app.js file. We need React library right up here at the top, and inside component, we'll just delete most of it right here because we really aren't going to be needing or using any of that stuff. We'll keep the surrounding div with a class of app and remove all that other stuff as well. Okay, so now we are ready to create our project. When creating our project, I don't want to waste too much time on the CSS side. So we're going to use semantic UI CSS classes to create our project. To include semantic UI to our project, let's just go to the browser and search for semantic UI CDN. Then I just click on the CDN.js link here. Okay, so inside the CDN.js page, I just hit Command F, Control F for Windows, and I am just going to search for semantic.min.css, like so. All right, so let's copy this semantic min CSS link and go back to the code editor. And I'll open up the index.html file under the public directory. Inside this file, I'm going to create a link tag here and paste the link that we copied inside href attribute. And here, don't forget to close link tag. Okay, so now we can use semantic UI inside our project. So let's save all this and close it. All right, so now under the src directory, I'm going to create a new folder. I will create a components folder under the source folder, and I will put all of my components in here. Right after that, I will create two components. I'll create one for navbar and one for to-do list. All right, so let's create the navbar first. I'm going to say new file and call this navbar like so. All right, so first of all, let's import the React library. And to do that, I'm going to say import React from React. Then I'm going to create class component. To create a class component, I will say class navbar extends React dot component. Inside the component, I will say render, and inside the render method, our component will return some JSX. Still with me? So inside the return statement, I will say nav, and this nav will be navbar. Cool. So now inside the navbar, I will create h2 tag, and inside it, I will say Oak Academy. Now this is going to be the header, and I'll just give it semantic UI class. I will say class name, and classes will be the UI-centered header. This classes are semantic UI classes. We've already uploaded it into our project. Okay, so now we're going to have, 3 buttons inside the navigation bar. So to do that, I just open up a div under the h2 tag and give it a class name of UI3buttons. Now I can create 3 buttons. So I'm going to create a button tag and give it a class name of UIButton. Okay, so this is our first button. And I'm going to copy it and then just paste it twice to create the other buttons, just like so. And I will say Overview for the first button. And for the second one, I'll name it Contact. And for the last one, let's say Support. So, of course, I'm just putting these buttons here for visual effect, just so that we've got something to work with here. We've got some kind of working template or application to work with when we start to learn about the Context API. So let's export our component to use inside the other files. So I'm going to say export default navbar to export navbar component, like so. All right, so now let's import this navbar component inside app.js to see it in the browser. I'm going to open up the app.js file and import navbar at the top. I'll say import navbar from ./component/navbar. All right, so now we have imported the navbar, and we can use it inside the app component. So I'm going to put the navbar and the to-do list components inside of a container div. To do that, I'm just going to open up a div and give it a class of UI, raised very padded text container segment. And this will be the container div. And now I'm going to put navbar inside this div. All right, so you see we're nesting the navbar inside the app. Okay, so we have now created the navbar component. Let's create a to-do list now, and that'll be our component to, well, list out some to-dos. I've got enough to do. Okay, so let's do one more component file. We'll call this to-do list.js. And again, this is going to be a class component. So let's import React first. And I'll just say import React from React. So now let's create another class component, and this one is going to be called to-do list. And I'm going to say class to-do list extends React.component. Then open up a set of curly braces inside this class, and I will call the render method like so. And then this is going to return some JSX. And inside the return statement, I am going to open up a div with a class name of UI list like so. Cool. Then inside this div, I'll create the p tag and give it a class of item. I'm going to copy and paste it 2 times. And then these are just going to be different to-dos. Told you I didn't want a lot to do. Now, for the first one, I will say plan the family trip. For the second one, let's go shopping for dinner. And all right, let's throw in another one, go for a walk. Okay, so we've got 3 to-dos. And for the last thing, let's export this component, export default to-do list. Okay, so now we've done this component as well. Well, let me save that and import it into the app.js. Import to-do list from ./components, and under the components, I'm going to import the to-do list component like so. All right, so let's nest this component inside the container. I will put the to-do list component under the navbar. So let's save all this and view it in a browser. So both of these components are now showing up on the page. But there is one more thing I'd like to do, and that is to just add in a little CSS. So I want to just move it a little down. And yeah, so let's flip back to the code editor. And I'm going to add some CSS properties to this app class to just bring it down a little bit. So all the CSS is going to go into this index.css file. So we go over here. First of all, I'm going to get rid of this because we're not going to be using that rule at all. Okay, so I'll put the app selector here, and inside it, I will say position of absolute. Top will be the 20%. And for the left is 50%. And transform translate minus 50%. Okay, so these will take the app container down 20% and centralize it horizontally on the page. So let's save it all and preview. So yeah, we've created a dummy application with React. So we're now ready to go. In the next lesson, we are going to dive right into the context API. So we'll take a short break here, and we'll come back and hit it in the next lesson.